Okay, there we go. Hi, Russ. All right.
Hello.
Hello. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm glad it gives you that little countdown circle because I was about to be like drinking when you pulled me up.
Listen, there's nothing wrong with that.
That's what I had to cleanse the palate.
Yep. Listen, we both got to do that. It's okay. And this would not be the same experience it's been without a few difficulties to come in. So, yay.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, and that's what I want to make sure. Can you hear me okay? Trying to use technology and all the fun tools. Do I sound okay?
Yeah, you sound
Okay,
great. Can you hear me okay?
perfect. Yes, thank you.
Great. Okay. That's the hardest part right there. Okay,
Good.
we're good.
Perfect. I love it. I love it. And I see James just joined. Oh, I love all my Atlanta people.
Oh, good, good, good. All right.
Yay.
Well, welcome everybody. Thanks for joining and being patient for those few minutes that I had to figure it out again. Let me just do this a little so I'm a little more, okay, there we go, I think. All right. Try not to cut my own head off here. So welcome to a Wine Affairs tasting series. Tonight, I have a really special guest, and this came about because of our giant love for Cab Franc. So I am so happy to geek out tonight and talk about my favorite varietal. I am still very much a novice in this journey, so I am talking to everybody I could talk to learn all I can about this and just tasting and making notes and getting opinions and all that stuff. So it's been a fun journey so far, but I'm still learning very much so. So I'm happy to have you on to help me with some
Yes.
of that tonight. And we decided to do comparison of regions tonight, which I think is going to be really fun. There still are a lot I have not had, so I think that's going to be really
Same.
fun. But before I do
Yeah.
all that, before we get into tasting, the good part, um, Andy Keffart is my guest. I'm going to let her introduce herself and tell you a little bit about her journey first, and then we can get into the fun stuff.
Thank you. Yes, yes. So I'm Andy from Poor Atlanta. This was really fun to kind of connect over Instagram and kind of meet your whole new group of friends and everyone here in the wine world. But I was really excited with the Cabernet Franc. It's kind of been a varietal that I've been really honing on lately, talking about our winter wines when Cindy and I first connected. And so my background originally started when I was in college. I first worked for Caribou Coffee, so that kind of stemmed my love for beverages and the coffee chats and learning to pull out the flavors in different coffee blends. So, of course, what's next when you turn 21? The wine. So I was
Of course.
privileged. Yeah, right. It's just the next, it's the adulting. And so I worked for my wine class in college. I was very fortunate to go to Florida State University where we had a hospitality program. So I got a stipend from the college to pour and research the wines. And then they also took us to Napa and Sonoma for my senior spring break. So I always tease I was out of state tuition, but we got our money's worth. And so that was, yeah. So it was one of the best trips I ever went on. I knew being in California, I had to get back into the wine industry somehow and kind of, did a few pivots here and there in the hotel and event industry. And actually, instead of California, ended up in Virginia working for the wine. And I think that really expanded my Cabernet Franc love and appreciation of this kind of unknown varietal. So I'm really excited. Then moving back to Atlanta, I didn't want to completely remove myself from the wine world. So that's when I finally kicked off Pour Atlanta. So it's actually my official blog and website. So I can stay with pouring and sipping and savoring with all of my friends, both my wine friends and my family and friends, just kind of picking out our wine favorites. So this is the first of many chats and pours that I'm looking forward to doing with you.
Oh, yay. Yeah, me too. Thank you. Yeah, I would love to do more of these. And anybody else that wants to do some varietal discoveries with me, let me know. I think this would be a great I was thinking about this today as we were kind of, getting our last touches on this. This is a great topic to cover. And I think, it's great to do any varietal and compare and sort of talk about what the differences are and all of that and what, terroir and all that stuff without getting too technical about it. I just really want to have fun on this channel, but I think that's a really good topic to cover. So anybody that wants in on that, just let me know.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And
I'd love to do more of this.
that's what I always tease. You got to practice. People ask me, how did you learn so much about this? How do you stay? I was like, I practiced a lot. So you got to pour yourself some more and just stay connected to the wine.
Yes, yes. Well, cheers to that. We're going to cheers to that.
Yes, cheers.
And here's to the start of our first, what should we call this? Our first Cab Franc extravaganza, I guess, for lack of a better, unless somebody else has suggestions, I'm open. You can type that in the comments.
Yeah, Cabernet Franc corner with Cabernet Franc.
Okay, there we go. Oh, hi, MJ. I have a friend from England joining me. That's so nice.
Oh, I love that. Yes. So yeah, Hannah.
MJ is an amazing poet. If you guys are not familiar with MJ Hillen online, go and read her poetry. Amazing. Okay, so we're gonna, so you've done your intro. We're gonna start with Chinon. I decided to start with traditional. The first Cab Franc that I had was French. And that's kind of what I'm more familiar with still. I'm still preferring French over anything so far, although I have one from Argentina here tonight too that I'm really liking. So very different, but very tasty. And so French is the one that I started with because that's the first one I had. And it's the first one that made me sit up and notice, what is this? And kind of really want to know more about it. For those of you that aren't, I don't know who, those of you that aren't that familiar with Cab Franc, just a little basic stuff that it's so Cab Franc, and I often get asked what's the difference between Cab Franc and Cabernet Sauvignon. You probably get that too.
Mm-hmm. What is Cab Franc?
What is Cab Franc, right? And it's and jump in here, but it's, to me, it's the lighter, less tannic version, and different in its own right. To me, it's more floral. It tends to be more herbaceous. It tends to be less bold, a little more subtle, and kind of unravels as you drink it, kind of thing, which is what I love about it.
Yeah. I always say it's like right down the middle of the road almost too, with acidity and like the tannins and the whole body. It's not too heavy, but it's not too light, just right down the middle.
Exactly. Yeah. So I'm going to start with, this one is, as I did my research, this one is this lady, Olga Raffault. I don't know if you guys can see this bottle, but she is considered a pioneer. And I love that it's a woman.
Yes, Women's History Month. Yay.
Yes, Women's History Month. So how timely am I? But her estate is very famous, and she has an interesting story, and this is the one I decided to go with tonight. I'm going to just read my notes, so bear with me here because I didn't want to memorize all this and sound weird. So Olga and her husband started this winery, and it's been the generation, it goes 5 generations back. So this has really been in the family for a long time.
Oh, that's cool.
And I love that. I love the stories behind the wine. That's one of my favorite parts of learning about wine. So her and her husband, Pierre, ran this winery together until 1947 when he unexpectedly passed away. And she was left with these 2 young children and on her own trying to keep this winery together. And one of their employees happened to be a German prisoner named Ernest Zeniger.
Oh.
Who didn't really believe in the war and was really there as taking refuge and had become friends with this family. Huh. And he wound up, interestingly enough, being their winemaker. So I thought that was really interesting. He made a promise to Pierre before he died that he was going to take care of Olga and children and help run the winery. So he did that. And did it all the way up until about 10 years ago when Olga's children, and it's quite a history. And they took it over, and then about 10 years ago, it started traveling back into the, still with the family, where her children took it over. and now it's her grandchildren. Her granddaughter Sylvie and her husband and their son are now running the winery. So I love that. And they've kept it in the family, and it's sort of a, you know, they're using a little bit of modern technology, but they're trying to keep it the way Olga would have wanted it. And I love that. I think that's a really
awesome.
wonderful tribute to her. So I really love that story. And I'm going to do a little tasting of this. I've already snuck a sip, so I'm sorry. But
Practice, practice.
We have to practice. That's what you said, right?
Exactly.
So I don't know if you guys can see this color, but it is really, really pretty. It's a really pretty garnet violet sort of color. And there's a little bit of, yeah, can you see that? It's really pretty.
Nice.
And it's just, this one is a 2017. And actually around the rim, it's still kind of translucent and clear. So it's still sort of evolving in my glass here, but it's really, I mean, there's so much going on in this wine. I just don't even know where to start. I mean, on the nose, I get hit with that violet right away. So it's just, it's lovely perfumey, you know, back to the perfume thing with Cabernet Franc. That lovely violety, just beautiful fragrance. It's very floral. I am getting a little bit of black fruit, little black raspberry, little black cherry. And then I do get a little bit of earthy on the end of my smell there. So I'm not sure where that's going yet, but I'm going to take a little sip.
No, I love that. Yeah, especially with the Chinons. Like, I feel like that's kind of the best way for tasters to start when pulling out the flavor profiles, just because it's such a full-bodied Cabernet Franc. You know, it's not the blended, but it kind of is able to taste the terroir and like taste the region that it comes from, and you just get to know the grape a little bit more.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, this is, I mean, come on, this is delicious. So I am getting all that black fruit, very much so. And I would say this is medium bodied, but low acidity on this.
Okay.
And I'm definitely on the back of my palate now, I'm getting a little bit more tobacco, a little more that kind of less earth, more tobacco-y kind of, and a little bit of gravel also on the end of this too.
Yeah, I love that about the French wine. Like, you can really taste the earth. And so sometimes it's not always a favorite. You know, if you're starting out with Cabernet Francs, French sometimes shows all of the flavor profiles in that aspect. And that's where you've got to have an appreciation for the dirt and the pencil shavings and the gravel and all that too. But it's fun to taste, especially with food. I feel like the Cabernet Francs can go with almost any meal, like a roasted pork, any like kind of mushroom, like brown sauce. Like that's where you want that gravel coming in to balance the saltiness.
Yes, and I can attest to the mushrooms. I love mushrooms, and I've had a lot of mushrooms with the Chinon especially. It's just it's like it was a combination born to be. It's just so delicious. And I love that when the food and the wine are just perfectly matched and they bring out the best in each other. And to your point too, I mean, that could be a whole other IG, is to talk about the soil and how the land made this flavor and all that. That could be another whole couple of hours of discussion. But I wanted to keep kind of away from that today. But this is so indicative of the region without going too much into that. This is really what you will taste. These kinds of flavors and the gravel and the minerality of this is so indicative of that terroir. And it's just delicious. I mean, I'm just such a fan of this wine. It's just great.
Well, I think, you know, when I think back to how did I first get into Cabernet Franc, and even, you know, thinking back to college, it is harder to find. It's harder to find by itself, even though it's the father of Cabernet Sauvignon, and it helped develop Merlot. It's not the easiest thing to walk into a store. I know we talked about this a lot over the last week and say, where's kind of a bottle of Cab Franc? But, you know, when you think about wines you like, and if this could be one you like, I think the best part of that is thinking of blends and blends you enjoy. And I know like a Bordeaux blend is one of my favorites, and that's where this varietal originated from. And so it makes sense kind of then getting to know them more specifically. So if you know, if you can't find a Chinon right away, like ask for the Bordeaux blends or even some of the Meritage blends, so that way you can slowly start pulling it out and at least having it in your wine.
That's a really good point, Andy, too, because I'm in Ohio right now, and it's a little harder for me to find all the regions that I want to try. So yes, a Bordeaux blend is a good way to sort of foray into that if you can't really find it. That's an excellent suggestion.
Yeah.
And the other thing I wanted to say too is on this, I'm definitely getting the pyrazini thing that goes with Cab Franc from this region. Very green pepper, jalapeno, that kind of thing happening on the end of this. Whereas in the next one from Argentina, I don't have that at all. So it's very different, but this is very characteristic, that really green peppery quality to this, which I love. It's not for everybody, but I love it. Is really special, I think, to me. So
And I think that's
cheers
a
to
big
that
point
one.
too. Yeah. And I think a lot of people, when they think, oh, I don't like this wine, well, maybe, the vegetative taste of it is too much for them. So like you said, look at
Right,
maybe a new world
right,
or a different region, because that's what the old world, and
right,
especially France and some Italian wines, like those flavor profiles because they pair it more with the foods. Where, I've read a
right.
lot about how the US, South America, they leave it on the vine longer, so it gets more of that black fruit and more of a body to it. So little fun
Mm-hmm.
facts, you got to taste a lot of wines to find your favorite.
You do. That's part of it.
Yeah, I
Well, do you
love
want to
that.
talk about, you have one, a French one as well, right?
I did. So
Yeah.
keeping with the old world France, Loire is one of the biggest regions. Bordeaux, it's in their blends, but I actually have a favorite go-to wine just in general of mine, and it's the Laroque. It's actually part, and I need to practice my French more, so I apologize if there's any anyone who speaks French fluently on the live right now. But it's a Languedoc-Roussillon region, the LR region. I just keep it short and sweet by its initials. So it's
Yes.
not as big and popular down there, but you can still find some really good Cab Francs when you're looking. And so this is one of the few single varietal Cab Francs I can find at multiple wine stores throughout Atlanta,
Mm,
sometimes at
okay.
Virginia grocery stores. And the best part about this is it's a pretty bold red for about $7.99, $8.99 to $12.99. So it's got
Oh,
that, medium range to low range price, which, my
right.
budget appreciates. And I'm not sure if you can see here too, it has a similar color that you were kind of
Mm-hmm.
showing, more of the purple tones, a little bolder without being too deep, which I really like about it. And it's a newer one. They just recently released the 2019. I had been drinking the 2018s previously. So you can taste that younger profile on it. It's not too bold yet. Um, but I really love this one because even before I bring it to my nose, I can smell the fruits come out. It's a very jammy, more of that black fruit, red plum. A lot of those flavors come out in the nose. But then as you kind of taste it, and I always like to say, and she was on here earlier, my girl Maggie, the Mixtress Cocktails. She was the one who pointed out this little trick to me is when you go wine tasting, a lot of people just stick their nose right in the bottom of their glass. That's actually where it cups and keeps a lot of the alcohol. So you're not always getting the full
Yes.
flavor. So I always think of Maggie when I share that tip to try and start from the front, so you're not taken away and can actually smell the whole profile. But this is one too that if you pay really close attention, it has that hint of pencil shaving. So it has that little bit of wood and
Mhm.
that little bit of gravel that we had talked about too. There she is. Thank you, Maggie, for your tips, Mixed Cocktails. Um, but this is one too. The thing I like about Cabernet Franc being straight down the middle is when I first was drinking it tonight before it really opened a little bit more, the tannins aren't as intense, but I really enjoy this
Mm,
one too because it does kind of tug my tongue just a little bit. It just slightly has that like dryness that kind of makes your mouth like so, like it brings out the saliva and kind of makes your mouth water a little bit
right.
for more, which that's back to the foods. That's why I like it so much. Um, but it's fun when I taste this one with friends. It's one because of that jammy black fruit flavor. Some people have even like reminded them of bubble gum. So it's not sweet
Mm,
wine per se, but it does have more of those fruity flavors, which I really appreciate in finding an old world French wine.
yeah. Oh, that sounds delicious.
Yeah, and it's got the cool story too, being on the actual limestone rock, the Laroque, and kind of just the history in it too. I think that's how we were talking about the old world stories and kind of having a story to share with the wine. I think it just makes it always taste so much better too. And yes, I agree. I just saw the comment about the warmer climate. So the region is at the very south of France. So it borders Spain right along the Mediterranean Sea. And so that really has a lot to pull out some of those flavors as well. So yeah, spot on with that.
Thank you, Russ. That's my friend Russ.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Russ
Good.
Russ is all things Italian, so he has turned me on to
Well,
some great Italian Nebbiolos and lots of great Italian wines, I guess.
so yes, Russ, we'll need to chat because I was a little sad. We were going to do an Italian Cab Franc, which I wasn't as familiar with. Um, and you're gonna have to forgive me, but this is from the Friuli region of Italy, and then
Mhm.
I also in a
Mhm.
lot of Tuscan wines, Cab Franc is pretty predominant. So I love learning that too, because I always just think France. It's where it's from, it's where it's
Right,
bold and big.
right.
But this Le Monde was a really great wine. It was originally, I think this was the 2017, and they're getting ready to release the new vintage. So they were out currently, so I couldn't taste it. But it was about $16 a bottle, 16 to 20. And so this was a really fun one too, because it had that purple flavors, more of a garnet ruby red when we tasted it.
Mhm.
But similar to this one, it had more of that jammy flavors. So it really kind of was more of that full fruit. And like we left it open for a day and went back and tasted it again. And it was anything with red sauce or any sort of fish was great when we first opened it. But then the next day, this was kind of like my dessert that night after dinner. So Italian Cab Francs are always a really fun one too.
Yeah, I'll have to try. I have not had any Italian cab francs at all. Russ said you said it perfectly, and he'd definitely like to learn more about it. So yes.
Yay!
Yay. I
I know I
always
have
feel
to.
so validated when Russ says it's okay.
It is. It is. It's fun. I think the thing I love about the States and moving around and trying wines from all over the world too. It's when you have a Kansas to Georgia accent. It's a big change just here in the States. So when I try to pronounce Italian words, I really appreciate that.
Oh, sure. Yes.
Yeah. Yes, it was a little more leathery too. It definitely had
Oh,
more of that full
okay.
body. Yep. Yep. Just a little bit more than the French one. So yeah, he does know his wines.
Oh, yes. Yes, he does.
Nice. Yeah, these were good. This was really fun. I think that's the best part is just always practicing and trying to find, what the wines are, starting with the Bordeaux and then kind of like blending out into the other regions of France. It definitely helped me learn a lot more about the regions because
Mhm.
there's a lot of information. I think I read something the other day. It would take you 8 years to try all of the wines in France. I was like, I'm up for the challenge. When can I start?
I would take it on, but yeah, wow, that's amazing. Jeez. Well, should we talk about Argentina? Let's see.
Yes, yes, my favorite.
So, Aguijón de Ibarra. This is and it's got a cool label. It's got a bumblebee on there,
I like it.
and it actually means bee stinger in in English. So it's yeah. There's a story behind that.
That's so
On the
fun.
back, yeah, it says on the back it's join the abejas buzz on the breeze. So yeah, it's kind of cool. This is one that I would recommend to somebody that, to your point earlier, Andy, that if somebody's trying to get into Cabernet Franc and the Chinon or some of the French ones are too much for you, this is a good move. It's very, very juicy and not as tannic and lighter bodied to me than the other one that I just had. And I'll show you. Now, it's a little deceiving because the color is much darker.
That's true. That's such a good point to point out. It fools you. Oh
And
wow.
I should, yeah, I should like, no, see, I know to do this, but I don't.
Oh yeah.
See how much darker that is.
That's the purple.
You would, yeah, that's that inky purple. So you would think that, it's definitely, it would be drier or not, but actually it's quite light. And it's just a really, like, this is to me like nice foray into Cab Franc. It's very food friendly. It's not too tannic. It's light bodied. Doesn't have a lot of acid. So it's not going to be a lot for people that aren't ready to get into all of that. And I just really like it. I mean, it's on the nose, and it's had a chance to open up a little bit because earlier when I tried it, I wasn't getting all of this, but now I'm getting a lot more. Yeah, it's very fruit forward, much more so than the Chinon. Very
Really?
fruit. It's like bursting with fruit, like cherries. I'm getting a little pomegranate. I'm getting like a little plum in there.
That's
a little
nice.
Tobacco on the end for sure, but not as much as the Chinon. Like the Chinon to me is more, if you were going to compare more cigar, this one is more, this one is just a little light, just a light little tobacco smell, but not a lot.
Yeah. Kind of like when you walk through that store. I went through North Carolina recently and they had all the tobacco flavors and all of that stuff. When you walk through, I think it's more of that fruity kind of tobacco-y smell that I always think of. Yeah.
Exactly.
No,
very good. Yes. Thank you for that.
But no, I love it, especially South America. I think they're Malbec. But with Argentina, I saw Hannah was on here earlier, and then Alden had just popped on. Our Alden and his beautiful bride, Monica, got married and went to Argentina for their honeymoon. So that was really my first deep dive into their Cabernet Francs. Yes, Hannah hosted a wine tasting. And so we did a Argentinian Cabernet Franc. And I was just so impressed by the complexity and just the boldness, but then the fruity flavor without being overwhelming. That's when, I mean, I can easily drink probably a whole bottle by myself without, because it's not one of those wines that you're like, ooh, this is a heavy one. Like, it's just so yummy, you forget it's wine.
Yeah, it is. It's very easy drinking. It goes down really easy. This is from San Juan in Argentina, and it's just much rounder. It's much fruitier. It's not as complex, but I'm still getting a lot of varying flavors in there. It's just not as complex as the French. And then also on the end of this, it is kind of a little lead. I mean, not as lead pencil as the French, but it is there's a little bit of it's got a short finish.
Okay.
But on the very end of that, there's a little bit of like lead or something there it's not nearly as pronounced as it would be on the French, but but just juicy, round, really nice. This is one I would do with fish for sure.
Okay.
You could do, this is one of those reds that would go with pretty much anything and wouldn't battle your food and be very complimentary to all of that. So I highly recommend this if anybody's wanting to get into it. And again, also very affordable. I think this was about $17, $18.
Yep.
And I found it at my local wine store. I mean, it's pretty easy to find here. So compared to other places, probably easier to find. So yeah, I really recommend this. It's really delicious and really easy drinking.
That's awesome. No, I can't wait to go ask for that because the El Domingo was the other one from Argentina that I really, really loved.
Oh, yeah.
That was like, it's that same purple and those same flavors that you were talking about. And when I was looking at one to order too this week, there was one from Uruguay, which it sounded, I didn't get it, but it sounded like the same profile.
Really?
So I'm going to have to order that for our next Cab Franc, New World tasting. Because I thought that was interesting.
Now that was not on my list. Uruguay.
Uruguay. Yeah, it's not as predominant, but I was like really excited when I saw that. I was like, we'll do baby steps for this tasting and then really dive into the, the other regions maybe next time.
Oh, somebody is asking, what is my local shop in Ohio? I'm in Cleveland, and I got this at the Wine Spot in Cleveland Heights, if that means anything to you. I'm not sure where you are in Ohio, but I'd be happy to tell you, online where it is, if you want to drop it on there for me. But yeah, I was going to say where you can find Cab Franc, where they're making it, is in the U.S., Argentina, France, Italy, South Africa, which I haven't had any from, Chile, New Zealand, and Ontario, Canada, where they are making it into ice wine.
Yes.
Which I did not know. So that was a new little fact for me. They're blending it into ice wine, which I thought was fascinating.
Yes, I have had quite a few good Canadian Cab Francs people have recommended, but I haven't been up there yet. And I think that was where I was kind of bummed about this call, because later this year, due to less travel and all of that, I haven't been able to make it back up to the Mid-Atlantic or north.
Yeah.
And so that was where we were really hoping I could maybe get into my other Cab Franc love, which is Virginia. So where I worked previously, it has a similar climate to
Mhm.
France more than California does per se. So they do a phenomenal job with their Cabernet Francs. So I highly recommend if you're anywhere in the Mid-Atlantic as you're traveling through Virginia, stop at one of those local wineries and you'll be able to taste it individually, probably by yourself, because that was just one of my favorite places in the world. So we'll have to do this
Oh,
again after I
awesome.
visit. Yeah. But instead, my New World option, I went with a California. This one kind of
Okay.
inspired me because I'm needing to finish my Cab Franc blog. And so it's called Writer's Block. And so I thought that would be, it was kind of fun and interesting too. It's done in oak barrels and kind of from the Lake County region. So they really talked a lot about this one, just kind of thriving a little bit more. I'm trying to see more in the Shannon Ridge vineyards. So
Hmm.
Kelseyville, California, that I'm not as familiar with, but I thought it would be a fun one to kind of pull out and show the difference. Because when you think of California, you think of the big Cab Savs. And what I found most interesting about the difference between Cab Sav to Cab Franc is how light this one is. So I don't know if you can tell the difference, and maybe I got my piece of paper here too that I keep forgetting to hold up. But it's just a much clearer, more ruby red. I wonder if I swirl it around. There we go. It's just a
Oh, yeah.
completely different color. And this is
Hmm.
one that I've let age for quite a few hours as well. So it's just like I held them up to take a funny picture for my mom earlier, and it was just weird in that lighting. I could just see the night and day difference between these two wines. But this one, it's definitely lighter on the nose. I'm trying to think. It's a 2017, where this Laroque is a 2019. So I'm surprised still with the age. It kind of just
Hmm.
shows you the
Yeah.
difference in the regions.
Yeah.
But this one, I mean, my goodness, this is where those were the dark fruits and the plums. This is red fruit all over the place. I mean, it is just popping with red cherry. You get a lot of more of that kind of like raspberry and more of the spice, less of the tobacco, more of that spice where it just kind of tickles your nose a little bit. And it's the
Oh,
same kind of thing.
Russ is asking what part of California he missed. What
Mm.
part?
It was a Lake County, so from Kelseyville. And this one's interesting. Like, even though it has that smell with the spice, so you're expecting it to have a little bit more body, it's a little sweeter on the taste. Very light, nothing too heavy.
Interesting.
Yeah, but I love it. It's just as it coats. I mean, this is one you can have it with fruits, even with like a nice like cheese and even some fun nuts, like mixed nuts.
Hmm.
This would just go really well with that. I'm excited. We're getting closer to the spring days here in Atlanta, so this could be a really nice summer porch sipping wine, not too heavy. Um, but I think too it would go really well with any kind of braised meats.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
just the flavors it has right now like has me really wanting some really nice tacos. Just kind of that more smoky meat flavor, the more savory to go with more of this fruity aspect. I just think that would be really delicious. So yeah, I was very surprised because like you said, you always think California, big Cab Sav, but their Cab Franc is a much lighter surprise.
Yeah, there's a lot of new stuff coming out of California too, which is really great to see. A lot of experimentation going on. So that's nice.
Yes, 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 yes. That's the one that I always think it's interesting. So that's what they do the hybrid aging, which I always thought that was really interesting that they kind of mix it up between them. So, but they said they let it
Mhm.
age about 15 months. So to be this light and to
Huh,
still
okay.
age for a little over a year, I'd love to see their, kind of what their hills and areas like.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's so interesting how much they can vary and be so different. It's just fascinating to me.
Yes, yes, it's super fascinating. Yeah,
That's
speaking
really
of,
cool.
yeah, so and actually Lake County is not, again, I don't know California as well, but it is in the more northern, cooler climate. So your friend Russ is right on
Mhm.
point. So yeah, and
Nothing
it's
new.
closer to the yeah, it's closer to the coast, so that all makes sense. Him
Okay.
calling that out. Yep.
Yeah. Yep. That weather thing, it makes it, it's the whole thing. That and soil makes it.
Yes, and I think that was what
Um,
I loved about Virginia and France is how Virginia has the river mixing with, it has more of that salt water mix of freshwater rivers
mhm.
that kind of blended into our soil there, right along the mid-Atlantic. So that's probably why I feel much more comfortable with the French Cab Francs. But I'll do better to learn more about these Californias.
That's great. Oh, I want to say hi to one of my best friends, Anne Marie. Thank you for joining, honey. Big, big hugs. We're going to teach her about wine. She's stuck on Pinot Noir, which is great, but we're foraying out a little bit. So that's good. I'm proud of you, sister. Very good. Okay. I want you to go buy some French wine. So you covered all of yours that you have?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, great. That was great. So for those of you that are still on, let me know in the comments if you'd like to know, if you'd like me to get a little more in depth on this subject. Like if you want to know more about, which Andy could certainly speak to, more about terroir and soil and the weather and the geography and things that really play a part in how these tastes and flavors vary. If you want me to get more geeky with this and really do a deep dive into that kind of information, please let me know. Hi, Amy. Because I'd be happy to do that. This was sort of this channel was sort of set up as a sort of a more of a fun, girlfriend's night out kind of thing. So I didn't want to I haven't so far gotten really too deep on this, but I'm very open to doing that. So if you guys want to see more of that, please let me know in the comments or, DM me on a wine affair on my site and let me know. I really like how you set this up with different examples from different locations. Thank you, Russ.
Thank you.
My man. Thank you. So yeah, I think that would be interesting to do. But yeah, I definitely want to do more of these. I think this is so great. And my favorite varietal, so it was, so fun to do
Perfect
this.
way. Yes. Yes.
Well,
No,
I
you
have
did great. So I appreciate it a lot. This was really fun. When you
oh my
first
gosh.
reached out about Cab Franc, it was funny because that was more the thing I love about Cab Franc too is we started talking about it in the winter wines because it was cold and
Right.
now as the seasons start to change, I just always love it. This was a favorite for different Easters or spring season meals too. So I think that was a perfect idea you had to do the Cab Franc tasting kind of here in the middle.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, well, I drink red wine year round. I don't. I'm the girl drinking the red wine in the summer, but but I have done some. I forayed a little bit this last summer into some Vermentino and Albarinos and things like that, which are really nice too. Um, this is great. Which was y'all's favorite you sampled? Hard question, I bet. Ooh, okay.
Oh yeah.
Um, that's from your friend, the mixed cocktails, the
Yes.
mixtress. I like that. That's
The
cool.
mixtress. Yes, she's so
Um,
fun.
I'm gonna have to go with the Chinon. The French is still my. I went to France about a year and a half ago. So what do you want me to say now? I mean, come on. So, French, I think is still gonna. Although there's a lot I haven't tried yet. So I may, I mean, I haven't had any from South Africa or a lot of other places. So, but French so far. So tonight, this definitely the Chinon was my favorite. How about for you?
Yeah, it's funny. California was my first love. It's what pulled me into the wine world. But this
Hmm.
Laroque, I mean, it is just such a go-to for me. Talking about drinking red wine all summer, it gets real hot down here in Georgia and in
Yeah.
Virginia too. That humidity is really hard to drink red wine. But even with a little bit more of a body for this wine, it's so good on that nice night when you just kind of need something a little bit more enjoyable to sip on. So yeah,
Right.
France is the winner. We
All
talked
right.
about this.
France. France won
We-
tonight. That's you know, what can you say?
It was really
You
good.
know, I'm perfectly fine with that. The Laroque sounds like tremendous value. Yeah, I mean, I can't believe that price point.
I can't
That's
either. It's
amazing.
so, I know. My friends, one time I took it over to a girlfriend's house in the hot summer, and we just sat outside on the patio, and a couple of her girlfriends were like, "Can we Venmo you? Can we send you some money for the wine?" I was like, "It's fine. Like, trust me." Like, this is cheaper than a glass at most restaurants. So yes, it is a great
Yes,
value.
yes.
It's an interesting wine, cool story, great body and color, and yeah, the price tag you can't beat.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to try to find that. That sounds great.
Thank you. Cheers.
Cheers to you. Well, I don't see any questions on my end here. So unless anybody has anything, I'm
I
gonna give
love
it a
the
minute.
Cab Franc Chronicles. I'm gonna have to check them out. Hello there.
Oh, okay.
We were talking about different names. Cab Franc Corner, Cab Franc Chronicles. They might have taken one of our name ideas.
Oh, you know what? I was in touch with that lovely lady today, actually. I was geeking out because she has a whole page on Cab Franc. And I was like,
Oh yes.
oh!
I can't wait to
So
follow.
I also have invited her to come on and talk with me too. I was like, as much as I geeked out with you, geeked out with her. So yes. Um, so thank you for joining tonight. That means a lot to me. Yes, Cab Franc Chronicles. That means a lot. I'm but a novice in your presence, but I hope to learn. Wow, that's awesome. Um, well, you know what? Oh, oh, hi Trish. Thank you for saying hi. This is so nice. I so appreciate everybody's support. That means the world to me. I can't say enough thank yous to my friends and this wonderful community that I've had on here. I mean, that I continue to have on here, and people support me. It means a lot to me. So thank you for that. It's not small to me when you guys say hi and show up. So I just want you to know that. That means a lot.
Yeah, yeah.
She's looking where to purchase, your friend.
Yes, yes. So some of the bigger Krogers in Virginia were able to order, and I know I saw it there. If not,
Oh,
I would check out oh, and now it's blanking on my name. It's a really great little wine shop right there outside of the museum district. So I'll search that out. That's the beauty
okay.
about Virginia is a lot of the private wine sellers are able to kind of open up their own shops and get more creative. So between I think there's the
Yeah.
Barrel Thief loves their French wine, and then oh, it's not the wine that got away. It's something creative like that. I'll have to look them up and
Yeah.
message you. Yes, you can get the Laroque in Virginia.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, if you guys
Oh,
have more questions after we finish, you can always get in touch with Andy or myself, and we can get you that info, whatever questions you have. But I don't have anything else on my end here. I just want to say thank you so much, my new friend, for joining me. This was so nice. I loved having you as a guest, and yes, I would love to do this again. And as far as Wine Affair, there will be more IG Lives coming up, so stay tuned for that. I'll start to announce them, and I'm trying to get some classes together to teach off of Eventbrite, so that'll be coming up too. More intermediate kind of classes. I sort of started with the beginner, and that's not really what you guys seem to want, so I'm going a little deeper. But yeah, so stay tuned for that, and stay tuned for Andy's blog, because she's going to definitely write that now. That's going to get
yes,
finished.
yes. I got my
So,
inspiration. I wasn't able to open it. So
yes.
yeah, yeah. So I did. I went into loving Loire. It was part of my falling in love with France saga. So I'll be posting
Okay.
more to dive into that region. And then similar to what we did, there'll be a little bit more in-depth conversation behind the new versus the old world. I love those comparisons like we did tonight. So no,
Right. Me too.
I was thrilled to join you. It was so great. Congratulations on your wine
Oh,
affair. I'm really excited for your journey and to follow you more on these IG lives. So this is really awesome.
oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Yes,
Same to you as well.
of
Cheers, my
course.
friend.
Cheers. Till we pour some more. I'm looking forward to it. So,
Me
except especially
too.
that Cab Franc Chronicles. I'll have to jump in for that one.
Yes, check her out because it's very impressive and she has a lot of great information on there. So yeah, she's great.
Awesome.
Well, ciao, ciao, Russ. Thank you. And thank you guys again. Have a good night. And I will be in touch soon. And thank you so much, everybody, for joining. Thanks
Yeah.
again, Andy.
Thank you. Thanks. Cheers, everyone.
Okay, so now I have to figure out. Here we go. All right.